Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today, I will tell you a very interesting Vietnamese story, the story of two sisters, Tam and Cam. Let's get started. Once upon a time, there were two half-sisters named Tam and Cam. Tam's mother passed away early, and her father remarried Cam's mother, who loved her dearly. However, he fell gravely ill and soon passed away. Tam had to live with her stepmother, who was a cruel woman. Every day, she forced Tam to do all the household chores, while Cam, on the other hand, enjoyed playing and having fun all day. One day, their mother told the two sisters, Tam and Cam, to go to the field to catch fish. She instructed, whoever catches more fish will be rewarded. Tam obediently followed her mother's instructions and diligently caught fish, and soon her basket was full. Meanwhile, Cam was too busy playing and hadn't caught a single fish by late afternoon. Seeing that Tam had caught many fish, Cam came up with a plan to trick her. "Sister Tam, your head is muddy. You should dive deep, or mother will scold you." Trusting her sister, Tam left her basket of fish with Cam and waded into the pond to wash her hair. On the shore, Cam emptied Tam's basket into her own and ran home first. When Tam stepped out of the water, her basket was gone. She sat down and cried bitterly when suddenly, a fairy appeared and asked, "Why are you crying?" Tam recounted everything that had happened to the fairy, who told her to check if there were any fish left in her basket. There was only one small fish remaining. The fairy then said, "Stop crying. Take this fish home and put it in the well to raise. Each day, feed it and remember to call it, 'Bong bong bang bang, come eat our golden and silver rice, don't eat the cold rice and porridge of others.'" After saying this, the fairy disappeared. Tam followed the fairy's advice and brought the small fish home to raise it in the well. Every day at mealtime, Tam would bring rice to the fish, eating only one bowl for herself and saving one for the fish. Before long, the fish grew rapidly. Seeing Tam bring rice to the well every day, the stepmother grew suspicious and sent Cam to spy on her. Cam returned and told her mother everything. The next morning, the stepmother told Tam to take the buffalo to a distant field and sweetly warned her, "My dear, it's forbidden to graze buffalo in our village. If you take the buffalo, make sure to go far away and don't graze near home, or they will take it away." Tam obeyed and led the buffalo far away. At home, Cam and her mother went to the well and called just as Tam usually did. Hearing the familiar call, the fish surfaced, and they caught it to eat. By the time Tam returned in the afternoon with the buffalo and called for the fish, she saw only a piece of bloody flesh floating on the water. Seeing this, Tam cried out loud, and the fairy appeared and asked, "Why are you crying?" Tam recounted everything that had happened, and the fairy then said, "Your fish has been eaten by others. Stop crying. Go home, collect the fish's bones, put them into 4 jars, and bury them under the 4 legs of your bed." Tam listened to the fairy and went inside to search for the fish bones, but she couldn't find them anywhere. Suddenly, a chicken ran out and said, "Cluck, cluck. Give me some rice, and I'll dig up the bones for you." Tam gave the chicken some rice, and it went into the kitchen, scratching through the ashes until it found the fish bones. Tam gathered them and buried them in 4 jars under the 4 legs of her bed. Not long after, the king announced a festival, and everyone was excited to attend. Cam and her mother prepared to leave very early. Tam asked her stepmother if she could go too, but the stepmother mixed a basket of rice with a basket of grains and made Tam pick them apart, telling her that she could only go after finishing the task. Tam cried bitterly. The fairy appeared again and asked, "Why are you crying?" Tam explained the situation to the fairy, who sent a flock of sparrows to help her. In no time, the task was completed. However, Tam had no nice clothes to wear to the festival, so she cried once more. The fairy appeared again. "Why are you crying?" Tam sobbed. "How can I go to the festival in these rags?" The fairy replied, "Dig up the 4 jars buried under your bed." Tam obeyed and dug up the jars. The first jar contained a beautiful, splendid dress. The second jar held a pair of exquisite embroidered shoes. The third jar had a tiny horse, which transformed into a real horse as soon as it touched the ground, and the last jar contained a sturdy saddle. Tam was overjoyed, quickly changed her clothes, and set off for the capital. The horse galloped, and soon they reached the city. Unfortunately, as they passed a muddy area, Tam accidentally lost one of her shoes without being able to pick it up. When she arrived at the festival, Tam wrapped the remaining shoe in a cloth and squeezed into the crowd. At that moment, the royal escort was passing by the muddy spot where Tam had lost her shoe. The lead elephants refused to move, so the king ordered his soldiers to investigate and found one of the shoes. The king examined it and remarked, "Such a beautiful shoe, the one who wore it must be very beautiful too." The king ordered all the women and girls in the land to try on the shoe, stating that whoever fit it would become his wife. Everyone rushed to try on the shoe, but no one could fit it. Cam and her mother also tried, but failed. When it was Tam's turn, the stepmother scoffed, saying, "The bell isn't worth anything, let alone this broken piece from the fence." However, when Tam tried on the shoe, it fit perfectly. When she handed over the other shoe she had been holding, it was indeed a matching pair. The soldiers cheered, and the king was overjoyed, quickly sending people to bring her back to the palace. From that day on, Cam and her mother were filled with resentment. On the day of the memorial for their father, Tam asked the king for permission to go home to make offerings. Seeing Tam return, Cam and her mother, already harboring ill will, plotted to kill her. The stepmother told Tam, "Today is the memorial for your father, you should climb the coconut tree to pick some fruits to offer him." Tam obediently climbed the coconut tree, and the stepmother cut the trunk. When Tam felt the tree shaking, she asked, "Aunt, what are you doing down there?" The stepmother replied, "There are too many ants on this trunk, I'm getting rid of them so they don't bite you." Tam fell into the pond and drowned. The stepmother then dressed Cam in Tam's clothes and returned to the palace, lying to the king. Sister Tam unfortunately fell into the pond and died. Now Cam will take her place. The king was furious but said nothing. Tam died and transformed into a golden bird, which flew into the palace. One day, while Cam was washing clothes for the king, she suddenly heard a song. "When washing my husband's clothes, wash them well. When hanging my husband's clothes, hang them high. Don't hang them on the broken fence. It's my husband's clothes." Cam was frightened by this. The golden bird chirped happily in the palace, following the king wherever he went. Seeing the bird so fond of him, the king remarked, golden bird, is my wife hiding in your sleeve?" The bird flew to perch on the king's hand and then hid in his sleeve. From that day on, the king took great care of the bird, making it a golden cage and tending to it daily. Cam was very upset by this and asked her stepmother for advice. The stepmother urged Cam to catch the bird and eat it, and to bury its feathers in the corner of the garden. The king was very angry when he found out about this. In the spot where the bird's feathers were buried, 2 tall trees grew, providing ample shade. The king, seeing this, laid his hammock there to rest. Cam then went back to tell her mother, who again urged her to cut down the 2 trees to make a loom. One day, while weaving clothes for the king, the loom made a sound, "Katsie kat cat, taking my husband's picture, sister, you gouged out your eyes." The king was furious but said nothing. Tam died and transformed into a golden bird, which flew into the palace. One day, while Cam was washing clothes for the king, she suddenly heard a song: "When washing my husband's clothes, wash them well. When hanging my husband's clothes, hang them high. Don't hang them on the broken fence. It's my husband's clothes." Cam was frightened by this. The golden bird chirped happily in the palace, following the king wherever he went. Seeing the bird so fond of him, the king remarked, golden bird, is my wife hiding in your sleeve?" The bird flew to perch on the king's hand and then hid in his sleeve. From that day on, the king took great care of the bird, making it a golden cage and tending to it daily. Cam was very upset by this and asked her stepmother for advice. The stepmother urged Cam to catch the bird and eat it, and to bury its feathers in the corner of the garden. The king was very angry when he found out about this. In the spot where the bird's feathers were buried, 2 tall trees grew, providing ample shade. The king, seeing this, laid his hammock there to rest. Cam then went back to tell her mother, who again urged her to cut down the 2 trees to make a loom. One day, while weaving clothes for the king, the loom made a sound: "Cat, cat, taking my husband's picture. Sister, you gouged out your eyes." Cam was terrified and ordered the loom to be burned. From the ashes, a custard apple tree grew, lush and full of leaves, but it bore only 1 fruit. One day, an old woman passing by the market rested under the tree and, seeing the fruit, said, "Custard apple, fall into my bag. I'll smell it, but I won't eat it." After saying this, the fruit fell into her bag. She brought it home and placed it on her pillow, only smelling it and not eating it. Every day, when she returned from the market, her meals were prepared, and her house was clean. After several days of this, she grew suspicious. One time, she pretended to go to the market but turned back halfway. Standing outside her door, she saw a girl emerge from the custard apple, cleaning the house. She rushed in, tore off the custard apple's skin, and hugged the girl tightly. She recognized her as her daughter. From then on, Tam helped the old woman with her work. The old woman opened a tea shop at home, and Tam assisted her in preparing betel quid, and the shop became increasingly popular. One day, the king passed by and stopped to rest at the tea shop. Seeing the betel quid, which was similar to what Tam used to prepare, he asked, "Old woman, who made this beautiful betel quid?" The old woman honestly replied, "My daughter made it." The king wanted to meet the old woman's daughter, so she called Tam out. The king was overjoyed to recognize Tam and had her brought back to the palace. Upon arriving at the palace, Tam recounted everything that had happened to the king. Furious, the king ordered the stepmother and Cam to be brought forth for punishment, but Tam, feeling pity, asked the king to spare them. The king expelled the stepmother and Cam from the palace, and as soon as they left the city, a storm broke out, and they were struck by lightning in the fields. From then on, the king and Tam lived happily ever after. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel to support me. See you again in the next videos.